Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everyone. Jackie Woodside here with another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world, bringing you strategies to live more consciously with time, money, and life itself. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. You've got me flying solo today, bringing the Conscious Living Podcast to you direct from me. No guest, no dialogue, no interview, just me and you, diving deeply into the subject and the topic of walking your talk to greater conscious living. Isn't that delicious? Because, it's really easy to shop at Whole Foods and wear good vibes t-shirts and go to a yoga class. Okay, maybe that's not easy, but you get my point. It's easy to do the external trappings in the culture that we're in of being all about good vibes only. But conscious living isn't about outer appearances. Conscious living begins with your relationship within, your relationship to yourself, your relationship to God or spirit or the universe or the creator of all that is, whatever you call it. Conscious living is being conscious of the fact that there is something greater than you orchestrating life, orchestrating the universe, and orchestrating how you move and interact in this world. Our job as people who are committed to living an awakened, enlightened, conscious life is to do the inner work and engage in the inner journey that creates the outer demonstration of the life that we want to live. Manifestation principles are truth principle. And when you engage in life consciously, life becomes just an endless flow of manifesting your highest good and the highest good for everyone around you. It's a delightful, delightful way to live. But because we're living now in a culture where kind of everyone is, well, maybe not everyone, but there is a big movement in our world now for the outer trappings of living life consciously. But you can't wear the good vibes t-shirt and then come home and kick the dog and yell at your kids and diss your wife. Conscious living isn't about what you know. It's about embodying truth principle in how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. So let's dive into some principles about this. Like I just said, conscious living isn't about what you know. We all know that it would be better to be of ideal weight and not carry extra weight with us, that hurts us physically, emotionally, it impairs our self-esteem. And yet 73% of Americans are either overweight or clinically obese. We know that it would be great to have money in reserve for when things happen or we want to make that extra purchase. And yet only around 40% of Americans have any kind of savings. We know that exercise is good for the body, but only 21% of Americans get anywhere near the recommended amount of exercise and movement in their lives. You get my point. We know lots of things, and yet how do we act? How do we think? How do we feel? And particularly, I want to lean into how do you think and how do you feel? Because as within, so without. It's hard to have a kind of dark, complaining, moaning, negative inner world, and then shine the light of God around you on the outer plane. As within, so without. One of my favorite pieces of scripture is from the book of Romans, where the Apostle Paul laments. I love this. It's one of my favorite verses, and I know you're going to relate to it. The Apostle Paul writes in the book of Romans, I do not understand what I do, for that which I want to do, I do not do, but that which I hate, that is what I do. It's Romans 7:15, I think, if you want to look it up. And I love that verse because Well, first of all, I kind of relate. And secondly, it just makes even the apostles who were walking the earth with Jesus so incredibly relatable. That is our journey to conscious living, to be able to have the experience internally of like, oh, I know I should be on the mat. I know I should do my meditation. I know having a spiritual prayer practice or a gratitude practice elevates my consciousness and makes me a more conscious person. And yet it takes something to get yourself on the cushion. It takes something to get yourself to the gym. It takes a level of commitment to living an awakened, aware, aligned life that is beyond the proclivities and the whims of your ego. The ego is always going to want to find an easy way out because it is designed for your survival. It gets a bad rap. But one of the best ways of subjugating the ego is to engage deeply in spiritual practices. What kind of spiritual practices? Well, I write my prayers because my mind wanders if I just say them silently to myself. So I write almost every day wonderful conversations with God where I get so much guidance and direction from a higher part of the universe, not from my ego mind that says, be careful and watch out and what will they think of me, but from the universal mind that we all have the capacity to tap into. Spiritual practices like meditation. Look, I know I've said this to thousands and thousands of people, and I have heard thousands of times, yeah, Jackie, I tried that, but I just can't meditate. That's why it's called a practice. Of course, you can't quiet your mind when you first sit down. But I want to share with you this very simple practice that I promise you can do. Instead of trying to sit and quiet your mind for 20 minutes, begin with just 1 minute of focused meditation. 1 minute of taking 3 deep breaths and then watching the flow of your thoughts as they move. Don't even try to stop them. Simply being aware, being present to what's happening in your inner world is enough. There's some new neuroscience research that shows that 1 minute of meditation done 3 or 4 times a day is the neurological equivalent of 20 minutes of seated meditation. Now, when I say neurological equivalent, what I mean is stress reduction and slowing down your thoughts and less irritability, less sense of stress and depression and anxiety. Just 1 minute of meditation done 3 or 4 times a day. You can do that. I have 4 times that I suggest people do it. When you first wake up in the morning, before you get scrolling on your phone, take your phone if it's next to you. A lot of people sleep with their phone right there. And just before you get out of bed, do 1 minute of conscious breathing. Then before you put your hands on the computer or get out of the car if you drive to work, do 1 minute before you start your workday. Then do 1 minute at the end of your workday. Make that break between when you finish your work time and if you're retired or not working, it's that break before you have your evening meal. Do 1 minute at the end of your daytime activities. And then the last one, 1 minute when you first get into bed. That's 4 minutes a day to create a higher level of self-awareness, which of course is the key to living a more conscious life. But I promise you, as you engage with this desire to live a more aligned conscious life, what's going to happen is that as you go within to try and elevate and change your consciousness, the ego will also get engaged. Now, notice I said the ego, not your ego. A lot of people say, oh, well, my ego doesn't allow me to do that, or my ego. There isn't your ego. There is a psychological mechanism in the human condition called the ego. Everyone has it. And the first step of mastery over the ego is your ability to separate from it, to disidentify with it, so that you can observe it and say, oh, there it is again. That's that human mechanism. There's the ego doing what it's supposed to do. I want you to understand that the psychological mechanism called your ego is designed for your safety. It's designed to keep you alive. It is that part of your personality, that part of your psychology that says, be careful, watch out, don't take risks, keep it safe, play it safe. But you don't have to listen. You can observe what the ego is doing, and you can thank the ego for its efforts and its attempts to keep you safe. And you can relegate it to its proper position, which is to help you plan, to help you make the proper steps to move yourself toward your higher vision and your goals. The ego has that capacity as well. But psychologically, the ego is always going to be the one that gives you the sense of diminishment and insecurity and uncertainty. When you hear that voice or have those feelings, just, oh, there it is again. The ego is activating. How you demonstrate living a conscious life is to notice your worries and subjugate them. Just let it go. Notice that you're feeling anxious and step away from the feelings of anxiety into a moment of peace. How do you do that? Simply come back to the breath. I teach a very simple method to help people master their thoughts and emotions, and it's called the 3Cs method. The first C is to catch it. Practice self-awareness. Notice that you're having an anxious thought, or that your stomach is tight and your heart rate has gone up some and you're having an anxious feeling. Notice that you're worrying about what's happening with your kid or your marriage or your job. Notice that you're having ruminating thoughts about what might happen, what could be. You're doing the what ifing on yourself. Notice it, catch it. Second step, challenge that thought or feeling. And you challenge it in very simple ways. Is that true? If I were to ask 1,000 people that question, would they say, yes, that is an absolute truth? No, it may feel true to you, but I am saying, is that thought objectively true? I'm no good at this. Things never work out for me. Is that objectively true? If you hold that thought and belief, things never work out for me, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast right now. Things have worked out enough that you've been able to have the resources and the time and the space to engage in self-development and spiritual development practices. So is it true? Is it true that this is, that I never catch a break? Is it true that things are going to never work out with my child? No, those things aren't true. They're just your fears. Second way to challenge it, is this the experience I want to have? Is this thought or this feeling creating the experience that I want to have? No. Well, you can master your inner world so that you can create a different experience. How do you do that? Well, come back to the breath, come back to the present moment. If it's not creating the experience that you want to have, you have the ability to change it by noticing what you're thinking and feeling, challenging it, because this isn't exactly the experience I want to be having right now, and then moving on to the third, which is change it. Another way that you can challenge your inner experience is by also asking this question. Is this thought or feeling creating the future that I want to live into? And the answer to that, when it's fear, anxiety, anger, jealousy, judgment, is always going to be no. Because those states are low vibration, low frequency states. And your life will become so much easier, so much more beautiful, so much more peaceful, so much happier when you engage in high vibration, high consciousness, thought, and emotion. So change it. How do you change a worried thought? Well, you catch it, you challenge it, and then you think, I'm going to set that aside right now. I don't have to be lived by that thought. That thought's not even true. That feeling that I'm having right now does not have to own me. I choose to subjugate the ego to the power of spirit rising within me, the power, guidance, and direction of God. I am here for a bigger purpose. Say that to yourself. I'm here for a bigger purpose than this. Thank you, ego, for sharing, but that's not why I'm here any longer. And the more you do this, the more your life will unfold in the exact perfect vision that you have in your mind's eye. When I was a young child, I grew up on the St. Lawrence River in upstate New York. It is a beautiful, beautiful region of our country. It's called the Thousand Islands region. And while I loved the river, the St. Lawrence River, which is huge and is the seaway for the ships, freighter ships between the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. So it's not this tiny little river that a lot of people imagine. It is huge. While I loved growing up there and I love the river, there's really no economy in the upstate New York region. So I knew I would leave the area to have a more expressive, more expansive experience in life. And yet I knew I would want to spend my summers there. I didn't know how that was going to happen. I didn't know how it would unfold, but I created a vision book and I created a series of affirmations, and I created this sense of faith and belief and possibility that even though my early career, I was just a social worker, not making a lot of money in private practice, so that I had patients 24/7, 365 people that I was responsible for. Later in my clinical career, I was in private practice. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I held the faith. I put those thoughts of, how are you going to do this? You've got a private practice, or you're not going to be able to afford this. You don't have enough money for it. I put all of those fears and doubts aside, and I focused on the vision. I recited my affirmations, and I imbued in my subconscious mind the belief that I would someday spend my summers on the St. Lawrence River. Well, 18 years and running. I bought my great aunt and uncle's cottage on the St. Lawrence River 18 years ago, and I bought my other great aunt and uncle's cottage 2 years ago. Now I have 2 cottages, and yes, for 18 years, have spent my summers on the St. Lawrence River. That's just one very simple demonstration of how to use your mind to train your brain to create the experience of life that you want to have. That's what it means to live life consciously. I could tell story after story after story of using these principles to create the experience that I want to have. I want to tell you one more. Maybe I'll do a show of just stories of manifestation and demonstration because it's so inspiring and so fun. I recently was invited to speak at a conference in Paris during the Summer Olympics 2024. And the panel moderator of the conference that I was going to be speaking on, the panel that I was on was a wellness panel. And the moderator was a woman named Sister Jenna, who I had wanted to meet for a couple of years, had exchanges with her, tried to get her on this podcast, which now is scheduled, trying to get her on my Conscious Living Summit, which now is scheduled. But for a couple of years, I'd failed at that. And when I saw that she was going to be the moderator of this event, I thought, oh, this is great. I want to connect with her. I want to be friends. I want to, be text buddies and do other events together. But I knew that the efforts of my ego wouldn't be the energetic stream, the energetic connection that would create that. So for the week or two before I went to Paris, before I went to bed at night for a minute or two, I would just call to mind Sister Jenna and send her love and connection energetically. I would see the energy of my heart chakra going out and connecting with the energy of her heart chakra, and that we would have this beautiful, warm connection and knowingness between each other. So I got to Paris and sure enough had the opportunity to see Sister Jenna from across a crowded room. And I walked my way over there and she was surrounded by a group of people and I was really excited to meet her. And I raised my camera to take a picture of her from the distance. And the crowd of people parted around her. And she turned and looked right at me and said, "Oh, hi, you're Jackie Woodside. I'm interviewing you in a couple of days." Whatever I had done through spiritual practice of connecting my heart energy with her heart energy, she felt that. She also connected. She obviously must have looked me up or in some way knew who I was. And from that day forward, we've continued to be good friends. It's not your ego and personality. It's not your intelligence. It's not your grit. It's not your effort. It's not your hard work. Yes, I do value hard work, effort, and grit. Those are great qualities to have, but they are not the creative principle. The creative principle is spirit. So as you go into your day today, I want you to really think about your life. Where are you putting in more effort, more grit? Where are you engaged in worry or stress or overwhelm? Where are you holding on to your belief that things are just difficult and not going to go your way versus surrendering to the truth and the power that through your spiritual practices and living an awakened, enlightened, conscious life, you can and will create the life circumstances that you desire, which not only is good for you, but it's good for the world. Because anytime any one of us grows in consciousness, all of humanity changes. Thank you for being a listener here at the Conscious Living Podcast. Be sure to hit like and leave a comment. That always helps. And even better, share this podcast episode with your friends. I'll see you next time.